My name is Raven. I am 26 and right now my entire world feels like it has fallen apart. Everyone around me says I brought this on myself, and maybe they are right. He found out that I was unfaithful, and instead of yelling or fighting he just disappeared without a trace. We had been together for 4 years, living under the same roof for 2 of those, and until last month I truly believed everything between us was fine. It was just a regular Saturday. I spent the whole day with my mom and sister, nothing unusual about it, but when I got home that evening something immediately felt wrong. The apartment was too quiet, almost like it was holding its breath. Everything looked too tidy. I called out for Nicholas, but he did not answer. I walked into our bedroom and it felt like the air left my lungs. His side of the closet was empty. The drawer where he kept his watches and cologne was cleared out. Even the bathroom cabinet was half empty. It was like someone had carefully erased him from my life. While I was away there was no note, no explanation, just silence. I grabbed my phone and called him straight to voicemail. I sent message after message but nothing showed as delivered. I checked his social media hoping for a clue, and that is when I realized I was blocked everywhere. Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, all gone in a second. It was like I never existed in his life. I panicked. I called our friends, asked if they knew anything. Nobody had an answer, or maybe they just did not want to tell me. The strangest part is how precise he was when he left. He did not take more than what belonged to him. The furniture we bought together, the kitchen things, all the little pieces couples collect over time. He only took what was clearly his: the coffee maker, the coffee machine he had brought with him when he first moved in was gone, but the couch we had chosen together from that store was still sitting there untouched. It felt so deliberate, so definite. By the time 3 days him, the furniture we bought together, the kitchen things, all the little pieces couples collect over time. He only took what was clearly his: the coffee maker, the coffee machine he had brought with him when he first moved in was gone, but the couch we had chosen together from that store was still sitting there untouched. It felt so deliberate, so definite. By the time 3 days had passed, some of our friends started reaching out more often, asking what was going on. They acted like they cared about both of us, and that is when the questions began. People wanted to know if something had happened between us, if we had some huge fight. I kept telling them that I had no idea, that everything had been perfectly normal, but deep down I knew that was not entirely true. I could not eat, I could not sleep. Every night my mind would spin with guilt and fear until I would end up gasping for air. My chest would ache and I would feel like I was drowning. A week later I felt completely broken. I had left him dozens of voicemails, sent countless messages, begged him to just talk to me. I even reached out to his parents, but they told me the same thing over and over: Nicholas is fine, but he does not want to talk to you. I felt like I was being buried alive. It all came to a head when Tasha, who I thought was my friend, came over. She had that look on her face, the kind that is part sympathy and part silent judgment. She sat down next to me and asked so carefully, "Raven, is there something you want to tell me, something that would make sense of why Nicholas walked?" Judgment. She sat down next to me and asked so carefully, "Raven, is there something you want to tell me, something that would make sense of why Nicholas walked?" The way she asked me that question made it obvious that somehow Nicholas had found out about Julian, but I could not understand how he had known. I had been so sure that I was being careful, or at least I thought I was. I kept up my innocent act. Of course I looked her straight in the eyes and said, "I do not know what you are talking about. Everything was fine between us." My voice broke just enough and fresh tears rolled down my face. They were not fake though, they were real tears, because underneath my lie I was genuinely panicking. My carefully crafted world was collapsing around me, and for the first time I could not control the story. The truth is, things between Nicholas and me had not been perfect. For a long time he had been spending more and more hours at his job, pushing for promotions. Always exhausted when he got home. Our conversations turned shallow and we barely talked about anything that mattered. When we did sleep together it felt mechanical, like we were just going through the motions. I started to feel invisible, like he would not even notice if I disappeared. Then Julian joined my office 2 months ago and suddenly someone was paying attention to me again. He complimented my work in meetings. He asked about my life and actually listened when I answered. One casual happy hour turned into a round of drinks alone, and before I knew it I was in his apartment. I told myself it Was just going to be one time something harmless, something to feel wanted again, but it did not stop. It turned into 2 months of sneaking around texting him while I sat at my desk making excuses about meeting girlfriends so I could spend nights with Julian. The first would come back to Nicholas after washing away every trace of another man in a gym shower. The secrecy made it feel even more thrilling. It was like having a piece of my life that belonged only to me. I felt seen, I felt wanted again. Now looking back, I see the signs that Nicholas had started to figure it out. The way he would ask why I was always staying late, the way he would glance at my phone if I left it out unlocked, how he would try to plan spontaneous weekend getaways or date nights like he was trying to reach for something slipping away. I would always shut down his worries. I made him feel paranoid for questioning me, asking him, "Do you not trust me?" I would look him in the eyes and say those words, watching him step back. Every single time, guilt written all over his face for even daring to doubt me. Just 3 days before he vanished, I had forgotten to log out of my email on the laptop we both used. Julian had sent me the details about a hotel he had booked for us. It was not the first message like that, but it was definitely the most obvious. I remember feeling a flash of fear when I could not find my phone that evening, but I brushed it off. Now I see it clearly. Nicholas had already started putting the pieces together while I was busy sneaking around acting untouchable. He was quietly planning his way out, so carefully, so deliberately. I sat alone in our empty apartment and whispered to myself, she is the villain here, trying to believe it, because who just leaves without even a single conversation, without giving me a chance to say I am sorry, or to explain, or at least to fight for us. I kept telling myself I deserved at least one big argument, yelling, crying, anything that would let me promise him it would never happen again. Instead, his silence crushed me in a way that anger never could. 2 weeks after he disappeared, Tasha called me. Her voice did not even sound like hers. It was distant, like she was talking to a stranger. She told me Nicholas had reached out to her. He wanted her to check on me, make sure I was all right. I remember grabbing the phone so tight my knuckles turned white. I asked her, "Where is he? Did he say anything about why he did this to me?" My heart was pounding. There was a heavy pause on the line. Then Tasha said it, "Raven, he knows about Julian. He has everything." She said it so firmly that my whole body went cold. I asked her, "What are you talking about?" but she cut me off, her voice suddenly sharp. "Just stop. He has screenshots, hotel confirmations, everything. He even followed you one night and saw you together with him." I did not even respond. I just hung up and threw my phone across the room. It shattered against the wall, but I hardly cared. The worst part was not just that Nicholas knew what I had done. It was that now everyone else was beginning to see the truth. 2-3 weeks passed and my entire life kept falling apart after Tasha told me what Nicholas had found out. It was like he had opened the door for everyone else to see it too. I found out that he had sent the proof to several of our closest friends, not to embarrass me in public, not to be cruel, but just to quietly explain why he had walked away so suddenly. One by one, the people I thought I could lean on turned their backs on me. Isla texted me saying, "I cannot believe you made us all worry about you when you were the one cheating." Then she blocked me. Ryan, who had been at our housewarming, who helped Nicholas plan my birthday last year, sent me a message saying, "Nicholas is devastated. How could you do this to him? How could you do this to all of us?" People who did not even know the details started to look at me differently. At work, I could feel the whispers behind my back. Julian started changing his routine so we did not cross paths anymore. He would take his lunch breaks at a different time. He would not even look me in the eye. The affair fizzled out the moment Nicholas left. Julian was quick to disappear too. He said my life was too messy now. Men always run when things get real. I tried to spin my side of the story. I told anyone who would still listen that it was not what they thought, that Nicholas and I had basically already broken up, that he had been distant and cold for months, that I had tried to fix things, that it was just a single mistake and he had blown it out of proportion. I asked over and over, who abandons a 4-year relationship over one mistake? A few people, mostly those who never really knew Nicholas well enough, seemed ready to believe me, or at least pretend to, but The people who really knew us saw through my excuses. They had watched us together. They knew Nicholas was never some cold, distant workaholic. They remembered the way he looked at me like I was the only person in the room, how he always made sure I felt included, cared for, comfortable. My own sister finally lost her patience with me after listening to my same justifications for the fifth time. She snapped and told me straight, "You know what your real problem is. You cannot handle that he did not give you the satisfaction of seeing him shattered. He just walked away and you hate it deep down." I knew she was right, though I would never admit it to her. What really drove me crazy was that he had not fought for me. He had not demanded explanations. He had not given me a chance to twist the truth, to cry, to bargain, to beg. Instead, he took my power away and left me alone with all the blame. I had prepared all my lines, all my excuses, even my tears, but they were wasted on empty rooms. So I became fixated on finding him. I told myself I needed to see him face to face to explain, but the truth was I wanted him to look at me and remember us, remember everything before it went so wrong. Maybe then I could fix it, not because I truly wanted him back. If I was honest with myself, I did not even know if I did, but because I could not bear being the one left behind, the one everyone judged. 2 months after Nicholas vanished, I finally got my chance. I was mindlessly watching stories on a mutual friend's account when I saw a location tag for a new coffee shop across town, and there in the background of a group photo, blurry but clear enough, was Nicholas sitting alone at a corner table, laptop open. He looked good, too healthy, composed, not like a man who had been destroyed by betrayal. Something inside me cracked wide open. I had spent weeks falling apart, missing work, pushing people away, sobbing alone on my bathroom floor while he was just fine, moving on with his life. The unfairness of it all felt like poison. I did not even think. I just drove there the next morning, my heart racing so hard it hurt. Nicholas had always been predictable about his morning coffee. I parked across the street and waited, hands shaking, breath shallow. Sure enough, at 8:20 he appeared walking up the sidewalk wearing that charcoal coat he always loved. He looked rested and calm, like he knew exactly where he was going and who he was. Without me, I sat in my car and watched him order his drink, chatting easily with the barista like he had been there dozens of times before. He found a spot by the window and settled in, looking so calm, so unbothered. Before I could lose my nerve, I was already crossing the street, pushing open the coffee shop door. My legs felt like they were moving on their own. He did not even notice me until I was standing right at his table, my shadow falling over his laptop. He looked up at me and just said my name, Raven. His voice was flat, no surprise, no warmth, no anger either. It was like he had already imagined this moment. "You just left," I said. My voice came out hoarse, like it was caught in my throat. No explanation, no argument, nothing. 4 years together and you just disappeared. He glanced around at the other people who had started to look over. "Sit down," he said calmly. "You are making a scene." I sat because I did not know what else to do. "You know why I left?" he said, his tone so steady it made me feel small. "You know exactly why. You could have talked to me." I pushed back, trying to find some ground to stand on. "You could have given me a chance to explain." "Explain what?" he asked, and for the first time I saw something sharp flash in his eyes. "You want to explain how you lied to me for months, how you went to his apartment while I was home waiting for you, planning our next steps together. It was not what you think," I said, clinging to the same excuses I had told everyone else. "Things between us were falling apart. You were always at work. You were distant, distracted." He held up his hand, cutting me off. "I am not doing this. I am not going to sit here and let you twist the truth to make yourself feel better." "Then why did you tell Tasha to check on me? Why do you even care if I am okay?" I threw it at him, desperate for anything that looked like a crack in his armor. "Because I am not cruel," he said simply. "I did not want you to completely fall apart, but that does not mean I owe you anything else." "You owe me closure," I said, my voice rising. Heads turned, but I did not care. "You owe me that much?" He looked at me, his eyes colder than I had ever seen. "I do not owe you anything. You made your choice when you decided to betray us. You ended this, not me." It was like he had just made everything final. The moment he stood up, so calm, so sure. The barista came over, her expression careful but worried, asking if everything was okay. "It is fine, Diane." Nicholas said, and of course he knew her name like he had been coming here for weeks. I was not ready for it to end like that. I was not ready at all. I reached out and grabbed his arm. You do not get to walk away again. You cannot just do this. I need. He gently pulled his arm free. The barista interrupted. Ma'am, I am going to have to ask you to lower your voice or step outside. Nicholas looked at me, and for the first time I saw real exhaustion on his face. What you need is not something I can give you anymore. Raven, where are you living? I asked, pushing the question out before I could think. Are you already with someone else? Is that it? He let out a tired breath. This is exactly why I left the way I did, he said. I knew if I stayed you would twist this, try to make it about you, turn it around so you were the victim, find a way to blame me for everything. I am not giving you that chance anymore. The barista turned to him again. Sir, do you want me to call someone? Nicholas shook his head, sliding his laptop into his bag. There is no need, he said. I was just leaving. Then he looked at me one last time. Do not come looking for me again, Raven. It is over for both of our sakes. Let it be done, I called out to him as he headed for the door. So that is it, 4 years, and this is how it ends. He paused for a heartbeat, turned just enough to look at me, and said, no, it ended 2 months ago. This is just you refusing to see it. 6 months after Nicholas vanished from my life, I sat alone in my new apartment, smaller than the one we had shared, tucked away in a part of town I had never wanted to live in. I still had my job, but just barely. The promotion I had been counting on went to Julian, of all people. He would not even meet my eyes in the hallway anymore. A few friends had drifted back into my life once I stopped trying to chase Nicholas down, but nothing felt the same. They kept their distance, as if waiting to see if I would implode again. You seem better, they would say, but deep down I knew better than anyone I was not. My sister said it that morning as we sat across from each other over coffee. You seem better, she said, though her eyes searched my face like she was looking for cracks. I am, I answered. The lie slipped out so easily after months of practice. Work is good, I said. I am even thinking about taking a little vacation next month. Good, she said, but she paused just a beat before asking, have you heard about Nicholas? My heart stumbled in my chest. Should I have? I asked, pretending not to care. She looked almost sorry as she said it. He is engaged, Raven, to Olivia, the woman he has been seeing. She showed me the post. It was on Instagram last night. The coffee in my stomach turned sour so fast it felt like poison. 6 months, 6 months from finding out about me to proposing to someone new. The sheer unfairness of it made my throat burn like acid. When I got home, I broke my 6-week streak of not looking him up online. I told myself I would not do it again, but there it was, the announcement, the ring, their glowing faces, all our old friends filling the comments with congratulations. People I once considered my people, writing things like, so glad you found someone who deserves you, so happy for you. Both. Tasha had even written that she was so glad he finally found his person after everything he went through. He deserved this happiness more than anyone. I could not stop myself. I scrolled through photo after photo of them together, hiking, laughing, cooking in a kitchen that must have been his. It was all so easy for her to slip into a life that used to be mine, and the worst part was seeing him truly happy. In each photo he looked relaxed, lighter, like a weight had been lifted. I tried to remember when he last looked like that with me, but I could not. It hit me hard that it was not just that he had moved on, but that he was better without me. He seemed more alive, more himself, while I was still stuck in the wreckage trying to piece myself together. My phone buzzed, then a message from Isla. Group text to some of our old friends, including me, probably by mistake. She was organizing an engagement party for Nicholas and Olivia at some fancy rooftop downtown. She included every detail without a second thought. 3 glasses of wine later, the idea that had seemed impossible started to feel inevitable. I would go. I told myself it would not be to make a scene. I was past that. I just needed to see them together with my own eyes, to understand what she had that I never did, to get the closure he had taken from me. When he walked out without a word the night of the party, I told myself it would all finally make sense. I spent hours getting ready for that night, picking out a new dress, paying for professional makeup, getting my hair styled just right. I wanted to look perfect, or at least like someone worth remembering. I showed up a little late on purpose, my heart pounding as the elevator climbed to the rooftop. The moment the doors opened, I could hear the soft buzz of laughter, music, clinking glasses. I walked up to the hostess, who stood at the entrance to the private section reserved for them. Name Raven Mitchell, I said confidently. I am with the engagement party. She glanced at her tablet and for a moment her polite smile faltered. I am sorry, she said gently. I do not see your name on the list. Behind me I heard my name. Isla was standing there, a glass of champagne in her hand, her eyes wide with surprise that turned quickly into alarm. Raven, what are you doing here? She asked, her voice tight. I shrugged, trying to sound casual. I got the invitation, I said, waving my phone like it proved anything. She looked at me like she almost pitied me. That message was sent by accident, she said slowly. You know you are not supposed to be here. People were starting to notice us, to stare, and then through the shifting crowd I saw him, Nicholas, standing in a navy suit, his arm around a woman in a white dress. Olivia. Our eyes met and the smile on his face disappeared. His shoulders tensed and he instinctively pulled Olivia closer, like he needed to keep her safe from me. It said everything about who I had become to him. The hostess was quietly speaking into her earpiece. Now security to the rooftop, please. Isla touched my arm. Raven, you need to leave. This is not about you anymore. It has not been for a long time. Her voice was firm but soft, trying not to make a bigger scene. Two men appeared by my side, dark suits and earpieces. Ma'am, we need you to come with us. I held my head high, grabbing my purse. Fine, I said, I am leaving. Tell Nicholas congratulations. Tell him I hope she makes him happier than I ever could, and tell him real love does not just disappear overnight, no matter how pretty the replacement is. As they led me toward the elevator, I turned back for one last look. Nicholas was talking to Olivia, his face serious. She looked worried but not angry, and their friends were standing close around them like a protective wall, guarding their perfect new life from the girl who could not let go. In that moment the truth hit me so hard I almost laughed. I was not the victim, I was the villain, the warning sign they would joke about at dinner parties years from now. The storm they survived. My phone buzzed in my purse. I knew it was probably my sister, already hearing about what I had done that night. Even I could not pretend anymore. I had become nothing but the ghost of my own mistakes. I ignored the buzzing in my bag and stepped out to find a cab. I could not face anyone, not even my sister, who was probably the only one still trying to love me through the mess I had made. Later, when I finally looked at my phone, I saw 3 missed calls from her and 2 messages, one begging please tell me you did not actually go to that party, and another saying call me as soon as possible. But what caught my eye was the text from an unknown number. This is Olivia, we need to talk. My heart nearly stopped seeing her name like that. Nicholas's fiancée had my number. My fingers hovered over the screen as my mind spun in 100 directions before I could second guess myself. I typed back when and where. Her reply came almost immediately. Tomorrow, 2 o'clock, Riverfront Coffee on Main. I barely slept that night, my mind replaying every possible version of how this could go. The next afternoon I got there 20 minutes early, choosing a seat tucked in the corner with a clear view of the door. At exactly 2 o'clock she walked in. I recognized her instantly from the photos, but she looked different, taller, more self-assured than I had pictured her. She carried herself with this quiet strength I had not expected. I noticed she was not wearing her ring. She must have taken it off for this. Raven, she said as she sat down across from me. Thank you for coming. Did Nicholas send you? I asked because I could not help myself. No, she said, wrapping her hands around her coffee. He does not know I am here, and I would like to keep it that way. Then why? I asked. Her voice was so calm. I just wanted to see you for myself, she said simply. I needed to understand what I asked, a little too sharply. The woman who haunts him, she said it so directly it caught me off guard. Even now, with us engaged, there is still this shadow of you, she said softly. I can feel it sometimes when a certain song comes on, or when we drive by a street that used to mean something to you both. For a moment I felt something like twisted relief. I had not been completely erased after all. I still existed somewhere in his mind. Can I ask you something? She leaned in a little closer. Why did you do it? Why did you cheat on him? No one had Asked me that so plainly before I stumbled over my words. It is complicated, I said, but she only nodded like she already knew it would be. Most important things are, she said quietly. We grew apart. I finally managed to say it was the easiest answer. He was always at work. I felt alone. It just happened. She tilted her head considering that, and then she asked, was it worth it? The affair? Obviously not. I snapped. Look at what my life is now. That is not what I asked, she said gently. I mean, in that moment when you chose to cross that line, did you really believe it would be worth whatever you might lose? I stared down at my hands, and for once I told the truth. I did not think there would be consequences, I said, my voice so small I almost did not recognize it. I never thought he would find out, and if he did. I stopped because the rest sounded too selfish to say out loud. You thought he would forgive you, she said, finishing the thought for me. You thought he would fight for you, not walk away. I nodded, my throat so tight I could barely swallow. That is what I needed to know, she said, almost like she was talking to herself. You never really knew him at all, did you? Her words hit harder than I expected. I wanted to argue. I was with him for 4 years. I knew him better than anyone, but she just shook her head. Nicholas Furno would never stay with someone who betrayed him, she said with this quiet certainty that made me feel so small, not because he is cold or unforgiving, but because trust is everything to him. Once it is gone, it is gone. He does not do second chances when it comes to trust. We could have fixed it, I said, the words tumbling out, if he had just talked to me instead of disappearing. She held up her hand, stopping me. That is what I am trying to tell you, she said. For him there was nothing to fix, nothing to talk through. Once you broke that trust, it was finished. The Nicholas who loved you was gone the moment you crossed that line, and he could never be that person again. I thought back to every story he ever told me about his parents, about growing up in a house where lies were normal, about how he promised himself he would never live like that. How many times had he said trust was everything to him? How did I miss that? It was his line in the sand. My voice came out barely above a whisper. Why are you telling me this? I asked, because I did not understand why she was sitting across from me, being so gentle when she had every right to hate me. Because you are still holding on to the hope for a different ending, she said. You still believe there is some unfinished business between you, and as long as you think that, you cannot really move forward, and neither can he. Not completely, neither can I. I stared at her, trying to understand. So is that what this is? I asked, gesturing between us. You sitting here trying to help me let go so you too can have a clean slate. She thought about it for a second. Partly yes, she said honestly. I am not going to pretend this is all for you, but also. She looked at me with something almost like kindness. I know what it feels like to be stuck in the aftermath of choices you cannot undo. I have been there too. She glanced at her watch and started to gather her things. I should go. Nicholas will wonder where I am as she stood up. A question slipped out before I could stop it. Are you happy with him? I asked. I mean really happy. She paused, looking at me for a long moment, then gave me a small real smile. Yes, we are, she said, and someday, Raven, I hope you find what makes you happy too, but you will not find it by looking backward. For the first time since Nicholas vanished, I really heard it. I really understood that there had never been a chance at fixing this. No words, no apologies could have undone what I did. The moment I broke his trust, it was over. I just did not know it then. The truth did not bring peace exactly, but it brought something close, a kind of clarity I had not had in all these painful months. The story was done. It did not end how I wanted it to, but it ended because I ended it with my own choices, ones I could never take back. I pulled out my phone, my hands trembling, and sent my sister a message. Can I come over? I wrote. I think I am finally ready to talk, really talk. She replied right away. Always, my door is open. I put my phone away and stood up, walking out of that coffee shop without looking back. Nicholas was gone. The life we had dreamed about was gone, and so was the version of myself I kept pretending to be, the good one, the victim, the one who deserved better. All of that was gone too. Now all that was left was who I might become next, whether I would learn from this or repeat the same mistakes, whether I would keep blaming everyone else or finally own up to what I had done. The road ahead felt lonely and uncertain, but at least for the first time it was ahead, not behind, not Dragging through what I had lost but facing what I still might find if I was brave enough to be honest with myself. Maybe that was the only closure I would ever get, and maybe it was the only one I truly deserved.